Good afternoon. I was outside looking for a big piece of wood. I'm wanting to make some type of a mixing bowl. Pretty good size. I want to go, about at least 14, 15 inches. But I came across a piece of, actually it's a big old cedar log that I've got up there. And I thought, well, let's just see what we can do with that. So it's nice and cured up. I mean, the wood's dry, so I don't have to worry, about later cracking. But there again, this is cedar. So cedar is, it's a little brittle, and it's already got a big crack in it. And I'll show you this right quick. It's this piece right here. This piece right here. It's about 17.5 inches. But if you see this crack right here, that is what I'm worried about. So what I may end up doing is, once I get this thing, the outside rough shaped, I may try to epoxy that or something to stabilize that crack inside there. And that way I can continue on without having to worry too much about it wanting to fly apart. So, but yeah, I've had this cedar log for a very, very long time. And every now and then when I want to do something big, I'm gonna, I use it. And so anyway, I'm actually starting to get kind of short on that log. I may be able to get maybe 2 or 3 more logs of this size, and then that'll be it. It'll be over for that. It's one of the biggest cedars that I've ever had around here. But yeah, we're going to turn it on my new lathe. I'm going to be using my McNaughton, because once I get this thing shaped, I'm going to turn it around and begin trying to core this out. Haven't tried to core cedar. I'm very inexperienced with a McNaughton, although I have used it, a good bit with my other lathe. I just couldn't do very well, just simply because it was turning way too fast. So, or at least that's my excuse. We'll see now, because I can slow it down. But anyway, it's, like I said, it's about a 17.5 inch diameter. It's about 6 inches tall, and I've already found the center and got a circle drawn. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over to the bandsaw and get this thing cut out into a circle and try to get it mounted up. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I'm hoping it'll be pretty. It should be pretty when we get done with it, but we'll see.
Okay, we're just getting started here. I'm going to get my circle drawn with my Trammel. This ended up being about a 17-inch diameter. And I'll go ahead and mark my center hole with my drill. Just very shallow hole, something for my center finder. Then we'll take the blank over to the bandsaw and get all the rough edges cut off of it. So we at least start out with a circle. It's better than starting out with a square, I'll tell you that. And we'll get this cut out, and we'll find the center here with my center finder, and I'll put my faceplate on. I'm using a good quality wood screw here. I wouldn't really recommend drywall screws. First of all, they're really thin, but they can break also. It's bad when you break a screw off down in there. Alright, let's get this thing mounted on the lathe. It's a big piece of wood, the biggest piece I've ever tried to turn. Alright, got my set screws tight. We're ready to go. Time to start roughing this thing out. Now, one thing I found turning things really slow, I'm about 220 RPMs here. This video sped up 4 times, but if you notice, I get a lot of pushback on my tool. It makes it kind of hard to control. You just have to be really careful here that you don't allow the vibration to actually take over. And what I mean by that is let it control you. You're hitting in one spot and then you're skipping and hitting another spot. And if you're not careful, you can push this thing out of balance even further as you go. And what I mean by that is when it hits one spot and it comes back around and it actually hits another spot first, because you're pushing too hard on the tool. Just try to allow the tool just to chop those edges off until you get a true surface. Don't try to push in too hard and get it bouncing, because it bounces and cuts places that you don't need it cutting. It makes it really hard to true up there. Now, I decided that Cedar is too brittle for me to try to use a Cedar tenon on this thing, so I didn't use the bowl blank for a tenon. I made a maple tenon and glued it on with epoxy. I didn't really show it, but I used epoxy on both sides. I used it on the tenon and on the bowl. And I'll let this thing set about 24 hours. I'm going to go ahead and fill some of that crack with epoxy and try to get it kind of stabilized just a little bit. I'll get it in as deep as I can, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to depend on this epoxy to actually hold it together completely. I'm going to use duct tape. And you see right here, I'll wrap the entire outer rim of the bowl with duct tape, and this will just help stabilize it while I core everything out. And that should hold it just fine. I shouldn't have to worry about this bowl trying to come apart with me on the lathe. Alright, now we're just going to get started truing up this tenon. It's about a 4-inch tenon. It's made out of maple, and it ended up being very strong all the way through the coring process. The tenon never gave me any problems at all. It never tried to break loose. It just worked really well. But we're just going to try to get this thing trued up, get the shoulders square, get it the right depth. If you don't get your tenon right, it will not hold your wood strong. Make sure if you have profile jaws that you use the profile that's with them. My jaws are straight, so I make sure that my tenon is the right angle from the bottom of the bowl and that the shoulder's flat, and it's ready to go. Now just get the face trued off. And there again, it's the your tool wants to bounce some. Try not to let your tool bounce any more than you have to, because you will end up cutting in places you don't want to cut yet, and you end up cutting more wood off to get it balanced than what you need to. Just take it slow and easy. Okay, this is where I've got it marked off for the McNaughton tool. This is all the process of aiming the tool. I'll talk about that in another video. I really didn't want to talk too much about it in this one and go into too much detail. But the entry angle of the tool will determine the depth of your cut and the shape of the bowl. So we'll talk about aiming in another video. But we've got her going. Got her all set and ready, I think. We'll see. Okay, just getting started. I've got my tool post in the right position. We're just going to get started coring out this first bowl here. Well, actually, this is I'm coring out the inside of that bowl because the middle part here ended up being it's probably going to be too small to really make anything out of. But I did save it, so we'll see. It would make a really nice lid for something, but it's kind of small. Do not force the tool. As the tool comes around the bottom curve there, it starts wanting to pull, and the tool will pull in. All you want to do is push. And there's one down, and it's kind of small, but I'm going to hang on to it. All right, and then I set up for my second one. Try to get this thing aimed properly, and we'll get started cutting on it. Cut twice, or measure twice, cut once, right? There we go. Alright, now we're going to get started cutting on the second core, which is actually my first bowl. And you can see this is a very aggressive tool. If you measure the cutting surface of the tip of the tool, it measures about a 1/2 inch down both surfaces. So it's about the same as trying to shove a 1/2 inch chisel into the wood. So it's extremely aggressive. It cuts really well, but you really have to learn how to control that tool, because it will actually start pulling itself into the wood and just bind everything up. But you're going to guide this tool in. You're going to push the handle straight into the wood. Don't try to turn it. I know it looks like I'm pulling on the tool. You don't pull on the tool. You just push it and let the curve of the tool just run its curve, and it'll run that curve just fine. If you start pulling on it, you can get your bowl out of shape a little bit. So you're just pushing straight down the handle in towards your blank. As we get down here close to the bottom, I'm actually having to hold the tool back because it's pulling itself in so hard that it will bind everything up. And there we go. There's the next bowl. And then we start on my last one. Had one little problem here. I didn't get to use that bowl there, or this bowl I'm cutting out now, because my tool wasn't long enough to reach all the way to the bottom well enough to break the bowl out. I thought it may be, but kind of had my doubts, but I tried it anyway. But the tool cut great. The McNaughton is a really good system. You know, you just have to realize that you need to turn slow with it and control the tool. We'll just keep on.
that was an adventure. Hope y'all enjoyed it. First time I've tried to use my McNaughton with my new lathe, and you know, the McNaughton itself performed pretty well. I learned a little bit more about the tool itself, and control wise, you've got to be very careful with it. As you're making your cut in, you're pushing straight in, and it just makes that thing do a curve. But as you start getting around near the bottom, in the bottom part of the curve, it starts pulling itself, and you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble there. It wants to stall your lathe and things like that. But all in all, it worked pretty good. I found out that if I'm going to do bowls this size, I'm going to need to get the jumbo set of McNaughton's for this, because the middle set, or the middle bowl that I had, that McNaughton tool, it just wasn't big enough. And you know, that would be my fault, I'm sure. I just need to invest in the big set. I can still keep the same tool post and everything, so all it is a couple of knives, and I'll be set to go for some bigger bowls. I just didn't realize. I thought I could get far enough in the bottom to break that bowl out, but I just couldn't. And so this is what it looks like right now. That was the middle bowl. So and it was cutting good. It's just it couldn't reach far enough to be able to break that bowl out of there, and you know, well, that kind of stuff happens in wood turning. I was hoping I could have got it out, but I was using this to try to break it loose, and well, I broke the bowl. So, but anyway, I could have fixed that, but still, my cut stopped with about a 4-inch diameter at the bottom still, and there's just no way it was going to break out. So I broke the bowl out with a hammer, and I turned all the rest down. So I ended up with 2 bowls. I ended up with this one right here. It's probably about 10 or 11 inches. Let's see. It is 10 inches dead on. So I've got a 10-inch bowl there that I can use, and this one is about right at 17 inches, and I can still use it. So all is not lost. And I'm gonna start trying to turn these down and see about making them into a bowl. I'll start doing that tomorrow. But anyway, the McNaughton, it works great. You just have to learn the control and learn how to aim it. Aiming it is probably the trickiest part about the McNaughton, but that's also what makes it so versatile also, and which is the reason I bought that tool. It performed well. The cutter just wasn't long enough to get to the bottom of this bowl here. So, or of the other bowl. That bowl would have been about a 14.5 diameter, and that knife just wasn't long enough for that. So anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I'm very inexperienced with a McNaughton, but I'm really excited about using it because it is a great tool, and I'm just going to keep practicing with it. And now that I've got a lathe that can pull it, I'm sure I'll get plenty of good use out of it. But anyway, that was a pretty tough little endeavor. So, hope you all have a good evening. I'm going to have me a beer and go in and try to edit some of this video so I can get it up tomorrow and see how it goes. Y'all have a good day. See y'all down the road.